Welcome to our present state versus history on Speaker. Here we are focused on the current events of our culture through the principles of our history, trying to make sense of the culture and the mindset of today. I am your host, Ray Mayfield. Okay, folks, here we are again back on the pod. Appreciate everything you listening to. Appreciate any support. Check us out on that truegospel.org website. Check out those links there. Spreaker platform and our Facebook page, our present state versus history. Any donations you can give us on that website are more than appreciated. We are trying to get this thing expanded, getting into a little broader spectrum, get some video going. Got a guy that got to make arrangements to get him in here to show me what we need to do to make some changes and get some equipment updated. But all that aside, I had big plans today. I was going to go over the Electoral College and the way it was originally set up and some of the things that the original founders intended for that system to operate in, which is a long ways from the way we have things going today. What got me on that was this whole deal with this insurrection charges against Trump, which, you know, I've said before and again, and it's been documented and verified that there was no insurrection. Nobody's been charged for insurrection, not one single person. There's been no insurrection charges brought against anybody. But yet the media, they keep trying to say Trump's an insurrectionist and he's caused all this whatever havoc. But I tell you what, today the events, it just keeps boggling my mind. The things that's come over the news today, I just had to take a step back. In fact, I started to come in here earlier today and do this, and I just could not believe what I was reading this morning. And then as the day has went on, it's just increasingly it's absolutely mind-boggling, these things. We got these people, you know, trying to hold Trump responsible for something that hasn't even happened. And then we go into the situation with the so-called legal documents. You remember here a while back, they never have got to court yet, but they've got him, you know, on so many indictments for having illegal documents in his house or whatever that he shouldn't have had in his possession. You know, something like 400 years worth of charges, you know. But yet today they released that, you know, Mr. Biden, they decided he had documents that was illegal, that he shouldn't have had, classified documents. But they decided that, you know, we weren't going to prosecute him because he's too forgetful. You know, he's just a senile old man that's, you know, got a good intentions. And that just amazes me. We're going to allow these things to go on. He can't stand trial because he can't remember. You know, he's just a good-hearted, forgetful old man. But he can run our country? Really? He's not fit to stand trial, but he's fit to be president of the United States. And some of the things that I read in this report, you know, the statements that he made, some of the questions, it's like, if that's true, it's like, are you kidding me? But yet, you know, we're just going to say, yeah, he's guilty and there's enough evidence to, you know, probably find him guilty. But, you know, we're just going to take it easy on him. But yet with Trump, you know, now we're going to throw the book at him. Really? And then Hawaii, I don't know if you've heard this today, they've decided that, you know, they had a young man here, well, not a young man, you know, a man here, I forget what year it was, but they tried him or arrested him and fined him and and confiscated his firearm, and he said that that was a violation of his Second Amendment rights. And so, this has been in the courts in Hawaii. All this, they took it to the Hawaii Supreme Court, and they decided that the Second Amendment doesn't apply in Hawaii because of some aloha statute, whatever that means. So evidently, Hawaii is making up their own rules by our Constitution, which is kind of by definition a violation or rebellion against the centralized status quo of our Constitution, is it not? Which is what our government's supposed to be standing up for. Is this really going on? It's the statements that I read that were released by the Supreme Court. It's just, I'm reading this stuff thinking, are you kidding me? And there's no pushback. This is what is blowing my mind. Where is the pushback? We've got these bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. that are relentless to get money to Ukraine. And then I heard a man make a statement today that senators asking questions because he's found out that the stuff that's been going to Israel has been being diverted to the Ukraine, and he can't seem to get an answer as to why that's going on. And we got our borders wide open. We're not seeming too concerned about any of that. And we've got this double standard going on every day. It's just like, what in the world is going on? I think these people are trying their best to create a major conflict within this country, but we cannot allow them to push those buttons. It's like this electoral college. According to the way the electoral college was supposed to be set up, I don't know if most of are you aware of this, because I wasn't till I started reading this, trying to figure out what was going on. But the electoral college was set up to find the president. There was a number of senators and the number of representatives that equaled the number of electors that a state had, and determined by those two factors, determined how many electors they had. And those electors, they were supposed to meet at the Capitol at the states, and they were supposed to invoke a candidate for the presidency. There wasn't supposed to be this Democrat-Republican two-party thing going on anyway when it comes to the presidency. They were supposed to take nominations, and the Electoral College was supposed to go out and find a candidate for president and vice president and invoke them to run for public office, to be the president of the United States. You see, they keep saying we have this democracy, which we do not have a democracy, because democracy is mob rule. And the way these things are going in this country, I think they're trying to push that mob rule. They're wanting this insurrection they're charging President Trump with to occur so that they can try and overreach their power and use military force to take control and assume power that they do not have. We, the people, if we were, this Constitution was set back up in the light of its original intent, would be better represented by our representatives, because we would have more control over these things that's going on in Washington, D.C. And that was another thing that the Hawaiian Supreme Court said. They said that, there's no reason that we should be governing ourselves today by the precepts of the founding fathers and the time frame of which they lived, because After all, we're a more modern society and times have changed and we need to adapt to the changes. There's really no need for anybody to be walking around carrying firearms, what they were trying to say. But yet we have a government that's more out of control than it's ever been. And I'm thinking there's more of a need to be not only walking around with a pistol, but I'm thinking you might ought to get some little heavier artillery, because there's no telling what's going to happen with all these foreigners that's in this country that are here to do who knows what. And I'm not somebody that's paranoid and trying to be, raise a red flag on that aspect, but my first responsibility is to protect my family, take care of them. And we've got so many people in this country from so many different places with different ideas about how things ought to be in this country that it's unknown every day when you go out in there in the public. But I guess in Hawaii, they're immune to all that, because after all, they're just an island unto themselves, sounds like anyway. I mean, I'm just talking here, I'm probably going to get all kinds of trouble and all kinds of flack, but we've been talking about our Constitution for a long time and having things set back in order the way they're supposed to be. And, we've been hearing a lot of rhetoric about who's supreme, whether it's the states or whether it's the federal government, especially with this deal going on in Texas. And the answer to that question is neither one of them are supreme. The people are supreme. We've talked about that before. It's the people's will. But we have a republic of a government that set things up in order to do the will of the people, because our government is supposed to be by the people and of the people, and the powers that our federal government have are supposed to be few and well defined. And if we don't go back to dealing with things by the original intent of our founding fathers, because contrary to what Hawaii says, the principles of governing do not change through time. People do not change. The wickedness and the evil desires for power and control are the devices that this Constitution was trying to keep at bay or hold back. The characteristics of the human animal doesn't change. It doesn't matter if it was 1824 or if it's 2024. The desires of men to be rich and powerful and control others does not change. And when you create positions of honor that are posts of profit, like the forefathers said, the men that have those positions will move heaven and earth to keep them. And that's what we're seeing happening right now. We're seeing all of this double standard. We're seeing the letter of law being thrown out the window. Now we have the Supreme Court justices right now. They're looking at whether or not President Bush or President Trump can be removed from one of the ballots. And that if that is not absolute nonsense, and they're saying, oh, well, we're afraid to, that the repercussions of how this will come out if we allow this to happen. No, that's forget the repercussions of how this is supposed to be. Look at what is supposed to be. The peoples have went and found somebody they want to run for president. They want to be president. It's obvious what the desires of the people are, and the Supreme Court has no authority to say that cannot happen. They have no jurisdiction in this matter. None. And the reason that they're even looking at this is exactly what Thomas Jefferson was concerned about with the consolidation of powers. And now they're legislating. The judicial system is trying to tell the American people who they can vote for, who they can have run for president, who they can't. They're trying to say this man's guilty of an insurrection that he's never been charged for, that nobody's been charged for. It's just a bunch of hooey that's coming across the airwaves, and people are buying it because of these so-called mainstream media people won't stop using that terminology. It's just absolute nonsense. There is no insurrection. There was no insurrection. Is what took place at the Capitol something that should not have happened? Absolutely, it shouldn't happen. But what took place at that Capitol building was no different than what went on all over this country And they didn't bother to even mention most of all that stuff. They don't even want to talk about most of all that stuff. And I promise you, you're not hearing anything on the media about the comments that were made in that report about Biden and not being fit to stand for trial, because that's basically what he was saying is there's enough evidence to take him to court and try him, but he's not fit to stand for trial, so therefore there's no point in filing the criminal charges and proceeding any further with the matter, because it'd be a waste of time is what he's saying. He says no jury's going to convict an old man that can't remember his own name. I mean, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's basically what he said. And the White House blowed up. They're getting all over him because he didn't have any business saying those kinds of things. Well, he's just telling it like it is. He's just saying what everybody knows. But if the man ain't fit to stand for trial, is he fit to be standing in the office of the United States of America as a president? I mean, come on. It doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence to figure that out, and it ain't nothing to do with Democrat and Republican. It's about the security of this nation. But those people that are pulling the strings behind the scene, they don't want this nation to stand. The American people need to start standing up, and we need to get these people out of them offices. We need to get Chuck Schumer and all the rest of these communists out of the offices. We've put too many communists in places of position. We've put too many narcissists in positions of power. We need to get this tore back down. We need to get back to the unadulterated Constitution of the United States. We need to repeal the 17th Amendment. We need to unfreeze the representatives of the states. And we need to ratify the Jefferson Amendment to get control of this Supreme Court. These three things will set this country back on its sure footing within 12 years. I'm convinced of it. You'll take all the profit out of running for Senate. There won't be any reason for the special interest groups and the big money people to try and buy the senators. They'll be able to stand up for the rights of the states like they're supposed to be. And you'll have enough representation if you go back to the slide by population on the House of Representatives, that you'll have enough of House of Representatives that people's voice will be spoken in that House. It will be once again the House of the people, and that House will appoint those senators to the positions that they are to be in. And if they're not doing their job, that House will remove those senators from those positions. And the states will once again be sovereign and be able to operate the way they need to operate, but they will all operate within the guidelines of our Constitution of the United States of America. And Hawaii has no authority to make a ruling on whether or not the Second Amendment is justified or whether it applies, because it applies to every citizen of the United States of America. And it doesn't matter what state they're in. If they're a state of this union, all citizens are protected by the Constitution of the United States of America. I go back to that very first paragraph that we seem to ignore so much. Here we go. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do obtain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's everybody. We the people for the United States. All those things that were listed there. The blessings of liberty, the general welfare, and security that is necessary. They say, oh, well, you're violating the other people's constitutional rights by carrying a firearm in public. I don't get how that can be. Well, their peace and security is being disrupted. No, they're being more secure in a peaceable manner because somebody's there to make sure the peace is kept. You call 911. First responders are going to get there as quick as they can, but I promise they're not going to get there until after the confrontation is over. They can't be everywhere at the same time. Nobody's coming. We, the people, are responsible to keep the peace. And before we let our borders stay open for years on years on years, Most people lived within peace in this country and didn't think much about carrying a firearm. But the reason why people are carrying firearms more and more today is because we have more and more uncertainty in our country. We have less security. We have too many variables. And I know I've been on a rant today, and I'm probably not going to hear all about it, but I'm just absolutely beside myself with the developments of the news today. We have a president that's not fit to stand trial, but he's fit to be the president of the United States. We have a state in our union that thinks that they can throw out a presidential candidate for the entire nation. We have another state in our union that thinks that they can just ignore the Second Amendment rights of individuals because they don't like it in their little utopia. And then we have a man who's being accused publicly and smeared and completely, what's the word we say? Use lied about. I'll just put it that way. Over charges that don't even exist. We've got money going overseas, hand over fist. We got a border that's wide open on the south. But nevertheless, the Lord said, when you see all these things, the end is not yet. Paul says, when you see these things, look up, for you know your redemption draws nigh. I'm telling you, folks, if you don't have faith in Jesus Christ, you need to be getting right. You need to be seeking Him and Him alone. You need to seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these other things will be added unto you. The only security that we have is in the Word of God. Of course, all these people that think that the Constitution's outdated and that all this other stuff is just fine and dandy, they think the Bible's outdated too, but it's not. And if we don't get back to living right by God and living right and by morality, living right by the letter of law, which is our Constitution in this country, it's going to be chaos and havoc. But even if that comes, if you're serving the Lord God, you'll have the peace that surpasses all understanding. Even though we don't get all this stuff, we know that in the end, God's got a plan, and His plan will come to pass as He has declared it to be so. So as hard as it might be, have a wonderful day till I see you again on the pod.